I think that there are lots of ways to connect to Israel. And for some people, it is through religious or theological connection. And there's no denying that that's why it's a special place for the Jews, because of, historically Jews were there, and it says in Leviticus that come to this land and make it a great land, and you're going to be a great nation here and all that. But Israel is, for the Jewish, it has in the Jewish mind, in the Jewish experience, is it's an idea as much as anything, right? If we talk about promised land, it's aspirational in a lot of ways. And then there's real life Israel. When you get there and the streets are dirty and people are making noise and people yell at each other and there's conflict, some of it just because there's conflict everywhere, and there people have the guts to actually be in some conflict with each other openly, and it doesn't mean a whole lot. You can disagree with somebody and it's not, it's not the end of the world. But also there's real and deep conflict, and things are complicated and messy, and more than one peoples want the land, and there are, it's not a caricature, but it's real life. So I think that I think that for a lot of people, when they get to Israel thinking that they're going to that place, that aspirational promised land, and then they get there, there's a shock to the system. And I think that our Israel itself and knowing Israel is one thing, and I think our relationships to Israel also are evolving, as we sort of figure out where we're at with our relationship to an idea of a promised land, our idea of being in a place where the majority culture is Jewish, which can be a shock to the system because there's no other place like that in the world. What does it mean to have, to think about having, what does separation of religion and government mean when it's a majority Jewish state? What does that look like in schools? What does it look like when the national holidays are Jewish holidays? How do we sort of come to terms with how that feels? And I think that for a lot of people, when I used to work at the Chronicle, people would go to Israel and they'd come back and want to write columns for us about their experiences. And I was always the buzzkill, because I would say, okay, no travelogue, and be really personal. And if you use the word amazing, I'm going to delete the word amazing. But the most common thing, people would come back and say, I really felt like I was home. I really felt like I was home. And I think that's a surprise. And I do not want to minimize how challenging and complicated and the connection to Israel can be for a lot of American Jews, a lot of Milwaukee Jews. I think there's a range of experience and a range of reactions to that experience, and a lot of us keep grappling with our own questions of identity and where do we belong, and what happens if you disagree with the policy of the government, but you believe very firmly that the state should exist. So it's complicated, I think, and yeah, people are surprised all the time. And it's not one thing. I think the thing that frustrates me the most in how people talk about Israel is that we have the tendency to turn everything into a cartoon. There's a bad guy and there's a good guy, and there's the one with the power and there's the one without the power. And while there is truth, while you can pull truth out of most things that people say, real life is much messier and more complicated, and you have to delve much more deeply. And people don't have patience. They want to say, I'm on the right side, and so this is where I'm standing. And okay, not helpful for deepening understanding, not helpful for deepening connections, not helpful for a lot of things. That's one of my greatest frustrations in this job, actually, is people who reduce complicated things to simple things and then yell and scream about it.